Hello, good morning to everyone. Now, let me discuss your first module in Java programming, which is the introduction to Java. So, before anything else, these are the topics that we will talk about for today. Now, let's talk about some programming terminologies. Okay, first of all, when we say computer program, it's a set of instructions that you write to tell a computer what to do. Okay, so when we say application software, it talks about how a program performs tasks for each user, such as the following: calculating and producing paychecks, word processing, or even playing a game. Again, that is what we call application software. Now, when we say system software, it's a program that manages the computer itself. Okay? Now, all of those computer programs ultimately are converted into what we call machine language or the machine code. Usually, it's actually a basic set of instructions that a computer can execute. Now, these are what we call the binary numbers, okay? And it consists of zeros and ones. We also have what we call the hexadecimal numbers, which consists of 0 to 9 and A to F. Those are an example of machine codes or machine language. Now, on the other hand, when we say low-level programming language, it's actually written to correspond closely to computer processor circuitry. Usually, these are the programming language that are actually very hard to understand. On the other hand, the high-level programming languages allows you to write an English-like vocabulary to write programs. Now, Java programming is an example of a high-level programming language because it uses an English-like vocabulary, as you can see here. Okay. Now, high-level programming languages uses what we call syntax. Now, this is very important. Syntax refers to the rules. Remember that. It's a rules that define the ways language elements are used together correctly to create usable statements. Okay, so for example, in English language, we have a sentence. Okay, now a sentence consists of different parts. Say for example, we have the rules in which what we call the subject-verb agreement. Okay, it's actually the same with what we call syntax in programming. We have a rules that we need to follow in order for us or in order for your program to execute. Now, we also have what we call compiler. It translates an entire program at once before any part of the program can execute. We also have what we call interpreter from the term interpret. Okay, it translates one statement at a time, allowing a program to execute partially. Now, we also have here an overview in terms of Java. CP11A will talk about Java programming all throughout. Okay, Java is a high-level programming language, as I have mentioned earlier, and it was developed by Sun Microsystems, and it was released in 1995. Okay, it's actually what we call architecturally neutral. Now, it describes a feature of Java that allows you to write programs that run on any platforms. Remember that, when we say architecturally neutral, it can run on any platform such as Windows, Mac OS, and various versions of Unix. Also, as of now, Java programming can actually run even in your mobile phones, which is a good thing. Alright, so far, we have here the latest Java Standard Edition, which is actually what we call the Java SE8. Now, if you will ask me if we can somehow use other versions, okay, yes, I'm allowing you to use other versions if you want, but then I suggest for us to use the latest. We can actually use from Java SE8, but then, as I have seen earlier, the latest version is Java SE14. Next, we also have what we call the JVM. It's what we call Java Virtual Machine. It's hypothetical software-based computer on which Java runs. Now, the new J2 versions were renamed as Java SE, Java EE, and Java ME, respectively. Java Standard Edition, Java Enterprise Edition, and Java Mobile Edition. Okay? Now, it's a good thing. This is actually the good thing about Java. It's what we call, it's guaranteed to have a feature in which what we call the WORA, write once, run anywhere, meaning it's a slogan developed by Sun Microsystems to describe the ability of one Java program version to work correctly on multiple platforms. Okay, now let's take a look here at an example of a Java environment. So we have here a Java source code. We have a compiler. So when we say source code, these are the codes that you're actually doing in your computer or in your mobile phones. So Java compiler will now compile the source code and will be sent to the what we call Java virtual machine, the JVM. And the Java interpreter will now interpret the compiled source code and will be sent out to the computer operating system, in which you will eventually see your output. Now, maybe you're asking, what is Java used for? Java is actually used for the following. Let me just go ahead and emphasize the following uses. Android and iOS app development. Majority of some games out there or applications, it's Java based. Video game development. Java is also used to develop games as well. And also for graphical user interfaces, Java is widely being used. And for software development. Now, Java was used to build the following. First of all, the Gmail, the most famous Gmail, and Minecraft. So if you would like to become a programmer later on, this course is actually a good foundation for everyone. Java is the basis of the Android operating system we have here. Now, just an interesting fact here. Yes, Java was used to call oak. Okay, it's actually a tree that grew outside of Java's gosling. Now let's talk about the features of Java programming. First of all, it's object-oriented, meaning everything in Java is an object. Now, we will talk about what is an object in Java programming as we actually progress by in our discussion, especially in the next few weeks. Java can be easily extended since it is based from object model. And it's platform independent. Meaning, when we say platform independent, okay, when Java is compiled, it is not compiled into platform-specific machines. Meaning, it can run in any platforms as you may wish. As I have said earlier, Java can run in Mac OS, in Linux, in Unix, and so on. Another feature here, Java is very simple. If you would like to study or start to study a programming language, Java is the simplest. Java is designed to be easy to learn. If you understand the basic concept of object-oriented programming, it would be easy to master. Java is also secure. Now with the Java's secure feature, it enables to develop virus-free, tamper-free systems. And we can actually perform or add some authentication techniques based from public key encryption. Also, Java programming is architecture neutral, meaning it actually generates an architecture neutral object file which makes the compiled code executable on many processors. As I have said, you can always run Java programming regardless of the version, or your Java code regardless of the version. Java is portable. When we say portable, we know the meaning of being portable. No implementation dependent aspects of the specification. That's why it makes Java portable. It's also robust. It makes an effort to eliminate error-prone situations by emphasizing mainly on compile time error checking and runtime checking. Also, it's multi-threaded, meaning when we say multi-threaded, it's possible to write programs that can perform many tasks simultaneously. Okay? And interpreted. Java can now be interpreted, meaning the bytecode is translated on the fly to native machine instructions and it's not stored anywhere. Another feature of Java programming is high performance. Okay? Comparing to other programming languages in terms of compile time and runtime, Java can now perform higher or faster comparing before. Java environment can now be distributed all over the internet. That's a good thing. Dynamic. Java programming is dynamic in such a way that it can carry extensive amount of runtime information that can be used to verify and resolve accesses to objects on runtime. Okay? Now, let's talk about the history. As I have said earlier, James Gosling was the founder of Java. It was actually during 1991 of June, and it's initially called as what we called Oak. Sun released the first public implementation as Java in 1995, and it's promised to be what we call WORA, write once, run anywhere, providing no-cost runtimes on popular platforms. On November 13, 2006, Sun released much of Java as free and open source software under the terms of the GNU, or the General Public License. On May 2007, Sun Microsystems finished the processes making all of Java's core code free and open source. Now, let's talk about the following tools you can use. Did you know that you can use Notepad in your computer to write your codes in Java? Okay? However, right now we have the following IDE that we can use to code your Java. So we have here NetBeans. You can also use Eclipse. Okay? So if you have your laptops, I suggest to use NetBeans. Okay? You can also use Eclipse, by the way. But then, in the laboratory, we are using NetBeans as our Java IDE. Now, if you don't have your laptops with you, you can actually use your mobile phone, your Android mobile phone, to create or to code your Java programs. You can download the app AIDE. A as in Apple, IDE, and the Google Play Store. Now, for basic syntax, let's talk about the basic syntax. Remember, Java is case sensitive, meaning the word hello, which in capital H, and hello in small letter h, will have a different meaning. Remember that it's case sensitive. It's very important for you to know that it's always case sensitive, whatever happens. Now, Java's class name also follow a certain rule. Okay? The first letter, remember, the first letter should always be in uppercase. Okay? So for example, you have several words form a name or to form a class. Now, always make sure that the first letter of the words are always in capital letters. See, for example, there you go, my first Java class. Notice that the M, the letter F, the letter J, and the letter C is in capital letter, especially if you will declare your classes in Java. Next, method names should start with a lowercase letters. Okay, now say for example here, we have the public void my method name. Earlier, I have mentioned that the class name should be in capital letters, the first letters. The topic methods and classes will be discussed in the following discussions that we will have. Okay? Now, for program file name, remember this. The program file should exactly match the class name. Say for example here, the name my first Java program is the class name. Always make sure that your file name is my first Java program. This code here that you are seeing, it's actually the main method, which what we call the main method, meaning every particular code after the public static void main string will now be executed. So as you can see here, we have here the class followed by an open curly braces. We also have what we call the main method, in which inside the main method here is our first Java application output. All of your codes will now be placed inside the main method. Now, here's an example of a basic syntax. Now, let's talk about the public. This line is the class header. As you can see, public is an access specifier, which we will be discussing later on. We also have the keyword class. Okay, the keyword class identifies first as a class. In this one, the first is the name of the class. This first that you are seeing right now can now be changed. If your file name is my Java application, your class name should be my Java application as well. If your file name is your name, the class name should also be your name. So for example here, I have place a public class Ian. My file name should be ian.java. Okay, now everything between the curly braces is class body. Remember that. Okay, this is very important. Everything that is enclosed by open and closed curly braces is very important. Now, next, let's talk about the main method. Okay, the static here means this method works without instantiating an objects of the classes. Void, on the other hand, is the method's return type. We will be discussing everything in deep when we will talk about object-oriented programming. String is a class. Okay, as you can see here. And the square bracket means the argument to this method is an array of strings. And args is the identifier of the arrays of strings that is the argument to this method. Next, let's talk about this line here, the system.out.println. This system.out.println first Java application that is enclosed in open and close parentheses and a double quotation. System is a class. Out is a property of the system class. Now, the dots separates classes, objects, and methods. Println, on the other hand, is a method. And the first Java application is the literal string. This is actually the thing that you will be printing out. Remember this. Always make sure to end your sentence with a semicolon. Now let's talk about Java identifiers. All Java components require names, and those names can now be used for classes, variables, and methods, and those are what we call identifiers. Now, in Java, there are several points to remember about identifiers. First of all identifiers should begin with a letter A to Z, capital A to Z, or small letter a to Z, currency character, or an underscore. After the first character, identifiers can have any combination of characters. Okay? Now, a keyword cannot be used as an identifier. What are those keywords? I will discuss it later on. Most importantly, identifiers are case sensitive. So examples of legal identifiers, meaning if you'll be evaluating an identifier if it is legal or not. We have here age. As you can see, age starts with a small letter, so it's legal. Salary, starting with a $sign, is also a legal identifier. Underscore value is also a legal identifier, and double underscore one underscore value, on the other hand, is a legal identifier. Now, these are illegal identifiers. As you can see, for as long as it starts with 1, 2, 3 or any numbers, it's illegal. Now, when we say modifier, okay, we have two, the access modifiers and the non-access modifiers. So we have here, when we say access modify, we have the default, public, protected, and private. When we say non-access modifiers, we have the final, abstract, and the strict FP modifiers. Now, these are the Java keywords that you are not allowed to use. See, for example, here. Okay, so you can see a keyword cannot be used as an identifier. Now, these are the examples of keyword. Okay, now let's talk about your performance task. Okay, by the way, I would like to assume that, okay, you were able to follow this part of the module. And so this is actually the part where you will be configuring your NetBeans IDE. So I am actually hoping that you are done with this one. Okay, now for the quiz, just leave it there. I will open the quiz portion in Canvas where you will place your answers there, including the evaluation. Okay? Now, for your performance task, now it's actually very simple. All you have to do is to simply copy the entire performance task and paste it into a new document. Okay? Now, I would like you to create a class name, which is activity1 underscore your last name and your first name and your middle initial. So, you should have, our target here is for you to create or to produce an output which looks something like this. Okay, so all you have to do is to simply encode your programs here. Okay, so I'm expecting that you have your outputs here, and make sure to answer the following questions. Now for debugging, expect that this code here will produce an error. Now the question here, what are those errors? Okay, what are those errors that you are seeing, and how are you going to fix those errors? That's why it's called debugging. Okay, and for the case problems, all you have to do is to read that and follow the instruction as I have mentioned there. Okay, so if you have some questions, you can actually always message me in Facebook Messenger. Thank you so much.